Let's get cracking, shall we? So, hi everyone. Those who I haven't seen today, my name is Bill. I'm running this session, which is the last session here for the day. Not the last session for the day, because there's other sessions, but the last one is for. So, this session, I guess, is called a number of things. On the book, it says, I think something like Microsoft 365 Fusion, but I like to call it the changing nature of work. Because for those of you who've been to my sessions before, you know I like to tell stories. Okay, so I'm going to start off by telling a little bit of story about how work has changed. So when I first started working, before any of you people were born, a lot of our work was done on this. Okay, so some of you may be unfamiliar with what this is. This is a clipboard with a pencil. Okay, all right, which, by the way, is all renewable materials that you can use. You can renew pencils and paper, and you know it's all recyclable. It's all really, really good sort of stuff to work with. And for many, many years, paper was the way that we worked. I did a job for a particular client a number of years ago where I was providing some instruction for the gardeners, and they had to move from a situation where they would record their hours every day on a piece of paper, and they'd give it to the girl at reception, and then she'd work out how much they worked for the week, and then they get paid on that basis. But then things changed, and computers came along. Now, does anyone know what sort of computer that one is, by the way?
It's like a good old X86.
It's a very old IBM. If you look closer, you'll see it is a dual floppy disk version, where you had the operating system on one floppy disk and all the other software and all the files on the other floppy disk. Okay, it was so simple then. Everything was so simple. Okay, green screen, only one color, so you didn't have to worry about color choices. No mouse, so it was all keyboards. Very easy to work with. But the guys had trouble. The gardeners had a lot of trouble. Their fingers are about 4 times the size of mine. And all my job was to show them how to open an Excel file, type in the number of hours that they did per day, save it, send it as an email. I mean, come on, how hard would that be? So we spent a day teaching them how to do that. And that I went through 200 times in a day, open a file, type this in, save it, send it as an email, open the file, type this in, you know. And it never worked for them. And the reason it didn't work for them was in order to access the one computer in the yard, they all had to log on, put in their username, password, uppercase, lowercase. So they never got past that. So they never actually got into the file. Anyway, for a long time, people used to work on these things, computers. These days, a lot of work is done by phone. So this is the changing nature of work, okay? For those gardeners these days, they just have a phone. And all they do is hit an app, and it just gives them a choice of how many hours they're working in the day. And they pick the choice and they hit submit, and that's it, okay? So that is the changing nature of work. By the way, anyone recognize the type of phone that's there?
A Windows phone.
A Windows phone, yeah. Have any of you got Windows phones?
I had it for a little bit.
Oh, you had it for a little bit. Anyone still got a Windows phone? Someone said no. Okay. Bottom drawer somewhere. Yeah, because like Billy and I, we experimented with many gadgets over the time. Anyway, so work has changed. Okay, ideally, in these days, because we're working in an environment where some people are at home, some people are at work, some people are on the road, you need to have a flexible environment for people to work with. They need to be able to work on the desktop. They need to be able to do things on the phone. They might need to do things on a tablet. So we need to have quick and easy ways to run things in multiple environments. And this is a lot of what Microsoft is moving towards with Teams and apps associated with those things. So really my session is really looking at working with a number of those apps. And it's really just a demonstration as to how you can quickly pull a number of things together. So what I'm going to do is go into Teams and look at creating a list in Teams. And Microsoft comes with a number of preset list formats that you can use. We're then going to create a mobile app based upon that using Power Apps, because generally people aren't going to be working specifically on their PCs. They're going to be mostly filling out this information online. It's really a training incident report form that I'm really getting them to fill out. So we'll be creating that in Power Apps. I then may want to use SharePoint to set some rules, like what happens if someone adds a new record? What happens if someone says a record's completed? I want to automate a process to send that information through. And that's really what people used to do in, what was that thing people used to use years ago? Outlook, that's right. I remember I used to use that a while ago. That's a joke, right? Okay, yeah. Still my bad jokes haven't changed. Okay, so you can set rules in SharePoint to link in to Outlook to send information, or you could also through there set a process, an approval process. A simple approval process where I could say, look, for this particular record, can someone approve it for a big set of information? And that all will flow back into Teams. That's my plan. 25 minutes, see how I go. So that's what I'm going to do. All okay? Agree with the bell? All right. So let's see what I can do. Rightio. For my 762 people online. All right, that's not actually true. It's not that many people. A few less than that. 7.62. 7.62 people? No, not even that many. It doesn't matter. There's someone there. That's the important part. Okay. All right. So here we are. I'm in Teams. I'm in a team called Future Leaders. Okay. In a general tab or general channel. Have all of you used Teams before? If you haven't, you've probably seen enough of it today anyway. In Teams, normally it's made up of posts and files up the top here, but you can add in extra things. You can add tabs. And one of the options to add tabs is, of course, to add a list. So a list is like an Excel list, but fancified for these sorts of things. I'm going to save that in here, and it will allow me to create a list or add an existing list. I'll just go and show you what happens when you go to create a list. A list can be one you start from scratch with. You can import information from Excel as a list to go into Teams. You can work from an existing list, or you can use a preset template. And there's a number of preset templates in place. I do want to set up some sort of an issue tracker. I want to track training issues in the training rooms. So I'm going to click on that one, and it will say, yeah, this is what it looks like. Very much like an Excel spreadsheet. The main differences are it has a number of drop-down boxes that you can use. It does a number of automatic links to email addresses for people for assigning information, all that sort of stuff. So you can use pre-existing templates to pull this information in. And there's quite a few of them. They can all be customized. I'm not actually going to use that one for the moment because I have already created one called Training Room Issues, just to save me time from having to put in, 2,000 records and all that sort of stuff. So here we are. So this is an example of a list. As you can see in here, I put in common sorts of things that happen in training rooms, aren't they, Billy? Oh, yes. Machines restarting, duplicate screen faulty, screen freezing, data projector out of focus, trip hazard, yeah, usual sort of things that trainers always complain about in rooms. They're never happy, So a description of what happens, priority to get it sorted, whether it's new, whether it's progress completed, who's working on it. And all of these are preset fields that come with this particular template. I've customized it to remove a couple, but mostly that's what it is. To add items in here from within Teams, and everyone in the team will see these instances, of course, that's the whole point about Teams. I could go to new item, and I get a little form in here to fill in. It's not a very fancy form, and you can access Teams on a phone, but I can tell you this sort of form on a phone, that's too many PHs there, doesn't look all that great. So ideally, I'd like to create an easier, a more user-friendly form for working with the phone. So I'm just not going to put a record in there. I've got a few records in there already. I'm going to go across to the three dots down the bottom here. And I can open this in SharePoint because when you work in Teams, essentially you're working in a SharePoint shell. Okay, and this list it's created is a list it's created in SharePoint. So if I open it in SharePoint, I'll get a lot of choices up the top of the screen for what I can do. And one of the key things I'm looking at here is to integrate, because this is where you can integrate this with other tools. So for instance, you'll see Power BI here. So if any of you have worked with Power BI, you know that if you've created a list in here, I could go to Power BI and ask it to analyze the information that's in here using Power BI tools. But we're not doing that, of course. You've probably seen enough of how wonderful Power BI is. I'm going to go to Power Apps because I want to create an app based upon this. Okay, what's this called? Training Room Issues. So the purpose of this app is to be designed for a phone so I can access it on my phone to fill out information rather than having to fill it out in Teams. Okay. So I will say, I'll create that. And PowerApps will say, oh, lovely, we've got work to do. PowerApps is basically a tool to create forms based upon existing data. I used to use something called Access many years ago. I don't know if any of you ever heard of that, which you could design forms based upon that. So this is similar, but in an online format, you're putting this information together. Okay, and it will show nice little pictures and say, yep, I'm doing all of this wonderful work for you in the fullness of time with the wind behind it.
The SharePoint used to have info path as well.
It did, yes. SharePoint had info path to do a similar sort of thing. So anyway, here we are. This is what it's created. Okay, so this is designed for a phone. What it's showing here is each of the records I've currently got in here, the name of it, the description, and the status of the item. Some standardized buttons here that can be used with the mouse or, of course, touchscreen for working. If I want to go and look at the details of one of these, this is high priority, so I'm just going to click on that there. It will show me the details of that particular issue. So this is pulling all the details out of those individual records. Okay, easy to do. All right, so we do have some standard buttons at the top. I could delete a record, I could edit a record. So if I click on there, I can edit the information, any of the drop-down lists, all of that sort of stuff has come in directly into here without me having to create any of that sort of data. Date reported, I could add an attachment, you know, a picture or a document, a description, a report, anything like that associated with it. I can confirm or cancel those things. I can go back and see my list. I could go up the top here and create a new record from scratch. So it's created all of that just like that. Now, of course, you can spend a lot of time customizing this. I'm in the preview mode of this. If I go out of here, working in PowerApps gives you a lot of tools for working with, which I'm not going to go into now. I might go to the theme, I suppose, and pick a different color theme for it. Yeah, that might be nicer, but I'm not going to play around with it much. The idea is you can see how quick and easy it is to create a phone-based form from a list within Teams or from any sort of a list, okay?
I say write it back to the Teams.
Yes, so this is linked. If I change anything in here, it will write all that information back. So if I came in here and say I did add a record in, what could go wrong in a training course? I was going to go for something more internet. I'm going to say internet flaky. Okay, is that how you spell flaky? Yeah. Goes on and off. Okay, priority, that's critical. Don't have the internet. I can't do any of my online courses. I'm in real trouble. Okay. Won't fix. No, I'll skip that. I'll leave the status. Dearie me. All right. I'll assign it to me. Date reported. Yeah. All right. I'll play around with that. I put it yesterday. Anyway, but I'm filling out information. I could go through. If I tick it up here, then it's going to go through and write that information across in the fullness of time. There it is. Internet flaky. You can see it's appeared in this list. There it is. If I close out of here, and if I go back into my training room, I might need, there it is, internet flaky, back in Teams straight away. Okay, all makes sense? Cool. So that's pretty good. So easy enough to create a form to put that information in. But at the moment, to get information out of this form, I've got to go into Teams to have a look. It'd be really nice if I got alerts and notifications associated with this information. Okay, well, what can I do? Let's see, there's a feature here called Automate. What does that do? Oh, I can set a reminder. No, I don't want that. I could create a rule. Oh, that would be interesting. I wonder what that does. Well, if any of you created rules in things like Outlook or anything like that, very much like that. This is looking at creating Outlook rules based upon conditions. So it will say if someone changes a column, column value changes, new items created, new items deleted. These are my options. I could say if a new item is created, send an email to somebody, who it's assigned to, who logged the issue, who created it, who modified it, me. So you see how it's picking from the form from the items that were in there. So I could say, well, you know, send it to me because I'm important. I need to know if anyone adds a new record in here. So I'll create a rule for that.
Have multiple people?
Yeah, you can ask it to send to multiples, I think, on those rules. Items deleted, email address. You could have assigned to, I think, there's that choice there from rules. Okay, maybe not multiples in this one, but if I did want to do multiples, I would probably do something a little bit different, which I'll show you in a moment. But on that particular case, I've set up a rule. I can go in and have a look at the rules we've got set, very much like rules in Outlook, but a simplified version. They've only recently added this rules feature in. Okay. So if I added a new record in, it would send me an email associated with that. So I could go back into my nice little form in here, I suppose, and add another record in. What was the other one? Power.
You know, like typically, well, the odd occasion where you go to a particular site and all of a sudden there's no power.
No, that's never happened. All right. No power. Well, just because it happened to me last week is not that important. Right?
Last week,
Yes, it did. Yes, no power. And I'll just put in here IT course because I think that's self-explanatory, right? Priority, yeah, everything's critical as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to assign this to someone else. I don't want to deal with this. I'll get Billy to do it. Because you've got nothing on your plate at the moment, haven't you? So that's fine.
Probably tasks to do.
Yeah. Okay. Date reported issue logged by. Well, that's going to be logged by me. In my alter ego of Bill Future, because I'm working in the future, right? That's what I'm working on. Okay. So if I just pop out here and pop into my emails, and give it the fullness of time that these things take, I'll come back and check that in a moment. I never know why it takes time to do emails, why it has to go for a long time and come back. It's not going very far, right? Really? We don't have our own data center here for it to work?
I don't know what you
It's not just through quarantine.
I was going to go for quarantine, yeah. Anyway. I didn't actually check this mailbox to see if it's actually picking up the right ones. Well, I'll come back to that. I'm sure it'll turn up. But I may want to do, there it is. Speak of the devil. Here we are. So what do I get? Bill Future added no power. Oh, that sounds good. Updated list training issues, go to item. So I can click on there and that will take me to that particular record and the details of that particular record. Okay. So yeah, all works pretty well, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I want more. Okay. So I'm going to go back into Integrate and have a look at a feature called Power Automate. So Power Automate allows you to create process flows. I'd actually like to create an approval process here. So to say, well, for say one of these records in here, you know, if this has come in, I need to get approval to say whether I can update the power in the room or something like that. I don't know. I couldn't even spell the word internet, by the way, could I? No one told me that. Internet. You just, oh, that way everyone was laughing. Fine, good, okay, not a problem. Future spelling, very good. Yes, yeah. Okay, so let's see, what have we got? I'll take that off so it's not selected. Integrate. Okay, Power Automate. Create a flow. So what I will do is directly link to flows in here, and I can set up an approval flow process. So the second choice I get down here is to say start an approval when a new item is added. So the rule I had before just said if something comes in, just tell me someone's added something. But I also might want to say if someone adds it in, send it to someone to approval before it actually gets stored completely in the process. Okay. Has anyone set up approval flows in any sort of thing before? Yeah. Easy to do? Oh, yeah. Yes, that's a good one. Delegating is always good.
Is that where you get an adaptive card? Is that what that is?
Sorry, what was that?
Is that where you get an adaptive card?
An adaptive.
Card? Is that what that is? Is that how it comes through?
You mean like you get like a prompt in the middle? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by an adaptive card.
Sorry, the email that arrives and adaptive card like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's where they get an email asking for an approval rather than just an acceptance of information. An approval or rejection of that will then take it to the next step in the process. Yeah.
And that's what this will do.
Yeah. You'll see there's two here. Start an approval in a new item or request approval. Everyone must approve for a selected item. And someone was asking about if you want to have multiple people approving. It's a good process, but I'll just start an approval. Okay, thank you. And this will take me out into Power Automate. And it basically says, yep, we're going to take it from SharePoint. We're going to use these particular tools. The purple one is the approvals. We're going to use Outlook to send information. And down here, it shows the actual apps that are being used to get that and whether I have the right levels of approval for that. And I don't have enough for approvals yet. I might just create that. Okay. Generally, if you need permissions, it'll have to come up in here when you set up these things, because for some tools, you'll need to have a username and password and authentication to do some of these tools. But I'll just continue through here. See what it does. So if you've never been to Power Automate before, this is what it looks like. Very exciting. It's like a process flow. Series of steps normally starts with a trigger. When a new item is added, start an approval. And in here, anything that appears in here in green is a variable that's being pulled from my data. Okay. So this is starting an approval process. There's a condition in here to say if it's approved, do one thing. If it's not approved, send a different message. The approved one says it's been approved by, this one says it's been rejected by. So it's already set all this up for you. You can, of course, customize this, but you don't really need to. It's set an approval process in place. Okay. So I can say, looks all right. If I'm not sure if it's okay, I can click on the flow checker and it will check and say, look, you've got no errors, no warnings, all looks pretty good. Right, so I'll save that. Oops, there has got a warning. Start the approval, assign to. Oh, right. Didn't I assign it to anyone? Oh, I probably didn't. Who should I get to approve this? Probably me. I know it sounds like I'm very self-centered, but you know. At least then I know I'll get the email, right? So, all right. So it will tell you if there's problems in the flow. Your flow is ready to go. We recommend you test it. That's very good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Your flow is ready to go. Yes. Excellent. Good. So I can go back to my data. I can ask it to add a new record. And then as well as sending me an email, or actually, I probably don't need both of those. So I might go to manage my rules and say, I'll switch that one off for the moment. Like rules in Outlook, you can switch these on and off. Still keep them, put them on at a later stage. I'll switch that one off. I'll go to add a new record in. I might do it back in my, back in here. What's something else that could go wrong in training? No students turn up.
That's not an issue.
No, no. Okay. Students falling asleep. Big issue. Okay, you know. Issue description. As above. I don't think I need to say anything else. I've got my own theories about how to deal with it, but that's not, I'm just reporting the issue at this stage, you understand? Okay. Priority, well, for my courses, that's low priority. People never fall asleep in mine, so that's all right. Status, yeah. Yeah, okay, play this up. Yes, assign it to. I better assign it to me because I'm making a mess of it. Date reported, yeah. Now, if I could work out, oh no, I could do that, yeah. Issue log by, yeah, I generate. That's all right, I'll send that. Okay, so students falling asleep has come up in here. So I just have to wait for my process to start. Now, how long it takes for an email and how long it takes for an approval process to work are two different lengths of string. Okay. I could go back and check in my flow. Because you can check the run history of your flow. Well, it says it's running. See how far it's got. It's running very slowly. Well, there we are. It's coming. Please review. I don't really want to do it that way. I'm going to go back into Teams. Because I'm in Teams now, I've got an activity message up the top here. Let's have a look at that. Oh, I've been sent an approval request. Students falling asleep. So this is what it actually does now, is it links Power Automate back into Teams. So I've now got a message in Teams saying, look, there's an issue, students are falling asleep. It's pending a response. It's requested by this person. Do I want to cancel a request, follow up, reject, approve? Not a great example, but this is what I mean about it going all back into one place. I started out in Teams. I created a list. I created a form in Power Apps. I set some rules in SharePoint. I've created a approval process in Power Automate, but I'm back in Teams. Okay, so I could approve that. Teams actually has, says question.
Back to the app that you created, how does your user access that?
Okay, so they need to put the Power Apps app on their phone, and they'll get a little icon in there that they can press or click or with their fingers to get to it. So there's a Power Apps app that you can install. Beg your pardon?
Yes, to the team.
Different to the Teams app, yeah.
So I've used Power Apps, but I'm just wondering how you surface it from there to your user.
How you what? Sorry, get it from?
How you get it from there to your user? Do you have to put it in a specific library in Power Apps?
Okay, if it's in Teams, which is where we're setting this stuff up from Teams, then by default, everyone who has access to that team has access to that app. If they're not in that team, then they can still download the Power Apps tool, but they won't see it in their list. But if they're in that team, when they log on, it will show everything that they have access to. Okay. So likewise in here, if I am in Power Apps, which I am in here, I'll close that over there. And if I go to File and save as. So these are the apps that I've currently got. And this is what would appear in their list, a series of little apps with symbols. You can change the color and put little icons next to them, you know, all those sort of fancy things people can do. Just set them up. I'm not going to worry too much about that just yet. But yes, so it will come up if they download the Power Apps app. Then when they go into there and because it will pick their login, they'll have to log in or sign into their account. Then it will show any apps that they have access to that's been shared with them. Yep. And it works well within Teams because if they're in that team, they'll get access to that app. So Teams does have its own approval center that you can call up. So if any of you went to the insights thing that Billy did earlier, you know, you can add in an option for insights. You can also add in an option for approvals. And so you can do this from within here. It'll show you any approvals you've received and their status, any approvals that you've sent and their status. Gives you the option of creating new approval requests directly from within here. And you can actually create your own customized templates for approval processes to run purely from within Teams without actually going out into the rest of the world. So that's what I really wanted to show you, was a quick workaround between those particular tools. To set them up is not hard. To get them set up exactly the way you want them, that's always the difficulty. But what Microsoft is trying to do is incorporate everything in one place, rather than having to go into lots of different places to get all these different things. And certainly when you go into SharePoint, these idea of integrating different options, automating different options are what they're trying to add from what people would previously have to go into separate apps to do. It's all about integration and fusion of the 365 world. And that's what I want to talk about in this session. So we're pretty much done. I should say, if you're interested in other things, we do run courses in Teams, Power Apps, SharePoint, and Power Automate. Feel free to experiment any further. Thanks for coming. I hope you've had a great day. I believe the drinks are on at the bar. For you people online, sorry, no drinks at the bar for you, but that's okay. But otherwise, thank you all very much.